Hello, and thanks for joining us for this Tech Talk presented by PHEMI Systems Corporation. At the heart of any data-driven organization is the core tenet around sharing data responsibly. And in this video, I'd like to talk about a key technology enabler, policy-based access control. Of course, it's critical for organizations to encrypt and protect sensitive data, but it's policy-based access controls that help make it easier to share allowable data with authorized users and applications. There are two common types of access control mechanisms I'd like to talk about today. Role-based access control was formalized before the birth of the internet more than 25 years ago to create a level of simplification and abstraction between users and permissions. For example, let's say that doctors are allowed to read and write prescriptions, but nurses are only allowed to read prescriptions. The role-based approach worked well in the early days, particularly when many users share a common role. But as companies grow and systems become more complex, the role-based approach gets tougher and tougher, opening the door for data breaches and access to information that users shouldn't be able to see. In fact, in many organizations, we see a role explosion, where the number of roles exceeds the number of employees. Not only has role-based access control become very complex for many organizations, it's also very user-centric and limited in that it doesn't take into account dynamic information like time, location, or resources. This problem is made all the more acute with big data, where we see many users, many sources of data, many data sets, lots of sensitive data, and a wide variety of data types and schema. To address the scaling and complexity challenges of a role-based approach, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, created a policy or rule-based approach called attribute-based access control. And in 2011, the US government Federal CIO Council recommended that this access control model be used for promoting information sharing between diverse and disparate organizations. Attribute-based access control involves four key architectural building blocks. A policy definition point where an administrator defines rules such as what doctors and nurses can see and do. A policy decision point where rules are evaluated. For example, is Mary Smith allowed to write a prescription? A policy information point provides context to make the decision. For example, is Mary Smith a doctor? Is she on the corporate network, or is she accessing the system from a secured site? A policy enforcement point then will allow or disallow the action based on the answer returned by the policy decision point. In its degenerate form, of course, attribute-based access control is a lot like role-based access control. PHEMI has adopted attribute-based access control, which makes it much simpler, faster, and more economical to implement. But moreover, because PHEMI was designed from the ground up to support privacy and data protection by design principles, it's easier to manage data access complexities at scale. PHEMI goes beyond standard attribute-based access controls. Whereas standard attribute-based access control provides for only allow or deny operations, PHEMI will actually select what a user is able to see based on policies you set. For example, a user in the claims department that's on the corporate network is allowed to see the full date of birth, whereas an analyst or perhaps even a claims agent who's on an unsecured network can only see the year of birth. This selective access control approach is unique to PHEMI and gives organizations enormous simplification in data management and data sharing. One of the challenges that organizations face with many commercial attribute-based access control solutions is the complexity in designing and supporting policies. And so PHEMI has developed a GUI template approach to simplify the process. Here you can see a template that allows doctors to read data tagged as PHI or personal health information, but export only de-identified data, whereas researchers and analysts can read and export de-identified data. This template can be created by privacy experts and then applied to individual data sets, so you have full separation of roles and audit capabilities. Let's take a look at a few use cases. Let's say Mary wants to access sensitive data from an unsecured site. A corporate policy may dictate that employees with an appropriate clearance can see sensitive data if they have a secure VPN and two-factor authentication enabled. Otherwise, they can only see de-identified data. However, customer credit ratings data can only be viewed from the corporate network, not remotely. Perhaps two organizations would like to collaborate and share data. A policy may be that those in one organization are only allowed to see de-identified information. They're allowed to add, say, a risk score column to a data set, while the other organization can work with fully identified information. Or perhaps one organization has acquired the other, and a policy may be that salespeople in one organization can see customer information for that organization only, and those in the finance department can see all information across the company. Perhaps even users may be given security clearance, such as commonly used in a government institution. Some users may have top secret, secret, confidential, or unclassified clearance, and data may be tagged with the corresponding classification. A policy may be that employees can apply for access to sensitive data or documents where their clearance is the same or higher than the data classification. So in summary, PHEMI has implemented policy-based access controls. We've integrated this capability into the data store so organizations can get up and running fast and securely. We've implemented privacy and data protection by design, and it's purpose-built for big data to reduce the risk of data leakage and simplify the complexity of managing many sources, many data sets, and many users. Our template-driven, intuitive graphical user interface and policy rule checking reduces the risk of a configuration error. All policies are uniformly and consistently enforced across all users and applications. And we've gone beyond standard attribute-based access control where allow deny operations exist to also include what users can see, whether they're allowed to see personally identifiable information, de-identified, or other or no information at all. Our access controls are defined, enforced, and audited at either the document, dataset, column, or the cell level. To learn more about PHEMI and how you can share data responsibly, please contact info@phemi.com or visit us at www.phemi.com. Thank you.